The Sabotaged Agreement, a story in two voices. Art has been clear from the start. Not pregnant. Not now. Maybe not ever. It wasn't a manifesto, just a boundary. One she'd learned to state plainly. Ava loved sex. She loved the way it could be playful and tender, the way it could make her feel stitched into another person's life for a moment. But for her, intimacy was about connection, not conception. Daniel was different. He carried himself with a kind of gravity, as if every choice was weighed against something larger than himself. She knew he was religious. She knew he believed sex was meant to create life. But she thought they'd found a middle ground. He'd wear a condom, she'd feel safe, and they could still have what they both wanted. Mate, he told himself he could resist her. He told himself that his convictions, that sex without the possibility of life was wrong, would hold. But Ava's presence was like a tide pulling him in. Her laugh, her touch, the way she looked at him, it all made his resolve feel like paper in the rain. He wanted her, and he wanted to believe that wanting her could still be righteous. The condom was the problem. It was a wall between what he felt and what he believed was the true purpose of their bodies together. He had tried to imagine accepting it, but the thought left him hollow. That night, in the bathroom, he stared at the foil packet in his hand. He thought about her beauty, about the heat between them, about the teachings that had shaped him since childhood. And then he thought, if there's even a chance for life, then this can be right. A pin, a tiny puncture, barely visible, enough to quiet the war inside him. Mate. She watched him return from the bathroom, smiling, the foil wrapper in his hand. She felt safe. She trusted him. When they were together, she let herself sink into the moment, the warmth, the closeness, the way his eyes softened when he looked at her. She thought they were meeting in the middle, each respecting the other's boundaries. Mate. Afterward, he felt a strange calm. He had been with her, felt the closeness he craved, and in his mind, he had honored his faith. He told himself he had found the only path through his moral conflict. But he didn't tell her what he'd done. Mate. Weeks later, the truth came out. She didn't remember how the conversation started. Only the moment it shifted, when his words landed like a blow. You knew I only have sex if there's a chance for life, he said. You never said the condom had to be intact. Her stomach turned cold. I said you had to wear one, she replied, her voice shaking. That means it works. That means I'm safe. You knew that. He tried to explain. About his beliefs, about feeling trapped, about how much he wanted her, but all she heard was the choice he made without her. I understood your beliefs, she said finally. I never agreed to live by them. Daywars go through a lot, right? He looked at her and saw the wall between them now, higher, thicker, unbreachable. He had thought he was reconciling love and faith, but in her eyes, he saw only betrayal. The Sabotaged Agreement, courtroom scene. Scene opens in a quiet courtroom. The air is heavy with the weight of testimony. Ava sits at the witness stand, Daniel at the defense table. The judge presides, the jury watches. Prosecutor to Ava. Ms. Carter, can you tell the court what conditions you set before agreeing to be intimate with Mr. Hale? I told him I would only have sex if he wore a condom. That was my boundary. I made it clear every time. Prosecutor. And did you believe that meant the condom would be intact? Ava. Yes, of course. That's the whole point. Protection. I never imagined I had to say, don't poke holes in it. You were aware, Miss Carter, that Mr. Hale's religious beliefs hold that sex should be open to the possibility of creating life? I knew his beliefs. I respected them, But I never agreed to live by them. That's why we used condoms. Defense attorney. And you knew he might struggle with that conflict. Ava. Struggling is one thing. Deceiving me is another. Daniel's perspective. Internal monologue. She's painting me like a villain. I didn't want to hurt her. I wanted to be with her, and I wanted to be right with God. I thought this was the only way to have both. Defense attorney to Daniel. Mr. Hale, can you explain to the court why you altered the condom? I was torn. I believe sex is meant to create life. I also cared deeply for Ava. I thought if there was at least a chance for life, then I could be with her without betraying my faith. Defense attorney. So you acted out of moral conviction? Yes. I didn't mean to violate her. I thought she understood that I could only be with her if there was that possibility. Prosecutor cross-examining Daniel. Mr. Hale, did Ms. Carter ever consent to sex with a damaged condom? Daniel. No, she didn't say that specifically. She didn't have to. A condom means use one that works. You knew she didn't want to risk pregnancy, correct? Daniel. Yes. And you acted in a way that directly created that risk without telling her. Daniel. Yes. Mr. Daniel Hale, can you explain to the court why you altered the condom? I was torn. I believe she understood that I could only be with her if there was that possibility. Altering those conditions without disclosure is a breach of that consent. Ava's perspective, internal. It's not about his beliefs. It's about my choice. And he took that from me. It's not about his beliefs. It's about my choice. And he took that from me. Daniel's perspective, internal. I thought I was reconciling love and faith, but maybe I was just justifying betrayal. It's a haunting. The sabotaged agreement, jury deliberation. A small, windowless jury room. 12 people sit around a long table. The foreperson, a middle-aged woman with a legal pad, clears her throat. All right, folks, we've heard the testimony. We've got to decide. Did Daniel commit a crime by sabotaging the condom, or is this just a moral dispute between two consenting adults? Juror 3, leaning back. She consented to sex, that's clear. Question is whether the condition, the condom, was part of that consent. If it was, and he broke it, that's a violation. Juror 7, frowning. But she knew his beliefs. He said he only has sex if there's a chance for life. Maybe she should have known he'd find a way to make that happen. Juror 2, shaking head. Knowing someone's beliefs doesn't mean you consent to them acting on those beliefs against your wishes. If I know my neighbour thinks borrowing without asking is fine, that doesn't mean I consent to him taking my car. Juror 9. Legally, the judge told us, consent given under specific conditions is not blanket consent. Use a condom means a working condom. That's common sense. Juror 5, thoughtful. I keep thinking about his motive. He wasn't trying to hurt her. He thought he was doing the right thing. Does that matter? Juror 8. Motive explains, but it doesn't excuse. If you rob a bank to feed the poor, you still robbed a bank. He still took away her choice. This is about autonomy. She set a boundary, he crossed it. That's the core. Juror 4. But what about his faith? In his worldview, sex without the possibility of life is wrong. He was trying to reconcile that with his feelings for her. Juror 6. Then the moral choice was not to have sex, not to trick her into his worldview. Foreperson. All right, let's separate the moral from the legal. Legally, did he alter the agreed conditions without her knowledge? Yes or no? A slow wave of nods around the table. Juror 10. Then it's clear. Whatever his beliefs, he broke the agreement. That's the violation. Sounds like we have consensus. Let's write it up. As they sign the verdict form, the room is quiet, each juror aware they've just judged not only an act, but the collision of two worlds, one built on personal autonomy, the other on moral conviction. And in this case, autonomy won.